Well, hello there and welcome to the kitchen of the dollhouse for another reading and quasi-comprehensive commentary on The Secret Language of Birthdays by Gary Goldschneider and Hugh Stelfers for December 8th, the day of abandon. That's right. And at the top of the page is a visual representational image of the day of abandon. Well, we have us an image of something you might be able to guess. What is it? Boom, it's a horse mid-stride, I would say. Perhaps a wild, untamed horse. Who's to say? Maybe as we get on with the read, we'll see why they chose that image. That being said, it's not altogether all too important in the scheme of things. And what's the scheme of things? Well, it's December 8th, and ostensibly it's someone's birthday. And so if that's the case, if it's your birthday today, I just want to say happy birthday. That's what's important around these here parts. But, you know, if this video is coming to you late, as things sometimes often do, you're probably out there busy with your party, enjoying yourself, not looking that stuff up on the internet, I hope. Well, but maybe you are. Who's to say? That being said, I hope you had a happy birthday if that's the case. But for everybody else who's joining us randomly or more ideally to celebrate the December 8th birthday, I just want to say thanks for joining us, and I hope you enjoy yourself. Now, before I dive in with the redirect, something I like to do around these here parts, that's roll some dice. That's right. This is the DykASSt birthday broadcast, so got to live up to the namesake, if you like, but I also do so more importantly for synchronicity's sake. That's right. And here I rolled a 3 and a 2 for a 5. You know, I think we rolled that yesterday, but hey, you know what? That's okay. That happens sometimes. Now, what's synchronicity, you're probably wondering? Well, it's just you getting out in the world and let the universe or the higher powers that be, if you believe in that sort of thing, show you it's with you on your path. And, you know, too often we get out in the world and we got the blinders on. You know, we're very singular of focus as we do our errands or go after our goals. So we don't notice a lot of things going on around us. And so as the tale is told, the universe or the higher powers that be are putting things in front of us to help us manifest our goals, all right? Help us get the things we want out of life into this world. That's right. But again, we don't see them necessarily. And sometimes we might even avoid them without even knowing that's what those are there for. And then as that's also been told, the universe will actually adjust things so that you still run into them. But again, you miss them. So this is, I guess, what you'd call an exercise to see how to identify those things. And we're going direct to the source, folks. We have the intention of having the universe show us how to identify those things. That's right, your numbers. Now, you don't have to go with the numbers I rolled for you. The intention is there, but you can decide that for yourself. That being said, it is probably a ideal idea to take your own set of dice. That's right, so you can ascribe directional values to number sets and also time limits with which to go in those directions. But that being said, you've got all that established, your times, your directions, your daily numbers, more importantly. You set out from some point that you decide, I don't know, the town square, say, and you go in that direction for that preset amount of time. But that being said, you got to stay eagle-eyed. You got to get those blinders off, and you got to take in what's going on around you. You never know what the universe or the powers that be, if you like, might throw at you. You know, the day might start to take on a theme. It might start popping things up all around you, like wild horses, say. I don't know how you identify a wild horse versus a tamed one. Maybe there's no saddle. Maybe that's it. Maybe you start seeing horses on bus benches, horses in trailers. I don't know, all sorts of stuff. You know, it's probably going to start to seem like coincidence, as they say. Well, hey, all right, that's fine. Lean into it. Let's generate some coincidences. So that being said, maybe at the end of your time limit, you reach, I don't know, the end of some corner, some street corner, and you look at the sign, and what is it? Boom, maybe you're on 32nd Street. That's right. Hey, that's one of your numbers. It seems like we're on the right path, doesn't it? Who knows? Maybe, I don't know, a bus pulls up right about that time. Maybe it's the number 23 line. You know what? I know a lot of folks don't like riding the bus, but you know what? That seems like a sign to me. That's right. Maybe it's the number 5 bus. You know, keep things open and clear if you like. Roll your dice to find out how long to get on that bus and stay on it. Maybe you just so happen to have perfect change in your pocket for as much. I don't know, maybe there's a giant Western horse on the side of it. I was going to say Greyhound, like a Western Union Greyhound or something, even though that's not a thing. But I think you get the idea. Start following those signs. Stay eagle-eyed. Like I said, the day might start to take on a theme. bunch of coincidences might happen for you. You see that you're on your path. And hopefully, I don't know, you just get out there, you see, taste, touch, feel, maybe even smell some of the magic. And if you do, you're going to understand why I brought it up. It's cool to see these kinds of things. And so you got to do something interesting on your birthday, I would argue. And so get out there with some dice, all right? See what you see. Who knows? Maybe, I don't know, you get off the bus, you see somebody that's wearing a horse costume. Hey, stranger things have happened. Maybe roll your dice to see how long to follow them. And who's to say, maybe they take you to a paddock. Oh, now you got some real wild horses being tamed in the paddock. You know what? It might just beat you over the head. It's so obvious. Who's to say? But I think you get the idea. So get out there, see, taste, touch, maybe even smell some of the magic. But with that horse theme, it's not necessarily going to be a smell you like, all right? Unless you're into that kind of thing for some reason. That being said, I think you get the idea of synchronicity. So let's dive in with your birthday read. Your month is December. Your day is the 8th. Your sign is 15 to 17 degrees Sagittarius of the Sagittarius II period specifically. And your quality and element is mutable fire. Well, all right. December 8th, the day of abandon. Those born on December 8th throw themselves completely into their endeavors. Not only is this true of their professional life, but of their private life as well. In their relationships, both as friends and lovers, they give all of their heart without holding back. Once they make up their mind, they are totally committed. Problems can arise for December 8 people regarding the depth of their commitment and accompanying sense of responsibility. If they are forced to leave a family situation or work group, for example, they can suffer tremendous guilt and agonize over having run out on those dear to them, even if circumstances were clearly beyond their control. And if their involvement could be a bit more objective, or if they were able to hold something in reserve, this would not only be so, but alas, this is rarely the case. And this would not be so, is what it said. I said not only. This would not be so, but alas, this is rarely the case. However, through experiencing disappointments over a period of many years, those born on this day may learn not to give everything they have every time, and hopefully without hardening their generous nature, it says in parentheticals. December 8 people are supercharged with surfeit of energy, but do not always direct it well. All right, and often they devote themselves to projects which have failure written all over them. But they can't see it at the outset. And in addition, they have a tendency, particularly regarding sex and love, to get involved in highly destructive relationships. And it may take years for them to recover from such obsessive, wrenching involvements. And yet they are rarely satisfied with normal companionships. They seem to seek out the most exciting and all-absorbing people they can find, who require all of their attention and energy. And it may take them some time to realize that what they are giving can never be enough. As a matter of fact, far less is coming back. And in this respect, they are addictive personalities. And what some born on this day are compulsively driven toward is abandon itself, which allows them to forget whatever may be bothering them. Fears, anxieties, and personality problems, for example, it says in parentheticals. More highly evolved December 8 people are able to direct their prodigious energy into their work. The same driving spirit and even wildness will be there in what they produce, but they themselves will be able to lead quite stable and socially acceptable lives. And such people are indeed enviable, and since they appear to have their cake and eat it too. Actually, however, they must maintain constant vigilance if they wish to remain so balanced. Thus, cultivating watchfulness and awareness is vitally important to December 8 people. And if they are fortunate enough to early on to find someone worthy of their devotion and attentions, they are indeed blessed. But they must realize that friends, lovers, and work associates are not always capable of returning their level of commitment and concern. They must therefore set realistic expectations and strive for objectivity in their relationships. Indeed, in all their projects, it says in parentheticals, in order to safeguard and preserve them. Well, all right, how about that for a birthday breakdown? I would say it was a little bit narrow a focus, but they certainly rounded it out in a pretty decent way, kind of examining all the different aspects of it. That said, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's dive in a little bit of that quasi-comprehensive commentary I promised at the beginning. All right, December 8th, the day of abandon. You're throwing yourself completely into your efforts, and not just to say your professional work, but the things going on in your private life as well. You throw yourself into them there, whole hog as it were. To the extent you give all your heart to your relationships, which I'm sure there are people who wholeheartedly adore that, while there's probably others who, well, they probably prefer you enter into it with a more measured or modest kind of approach, all right? Which may factor into the reading examining how you might feel agonizing guilt if forced to leave a group or a relationship. All right, to which I can personally empathize, all right? And even going into something mindful, it may come to an end. It isn't much help if it comes crashing down. That's right. But therein lies the risk of being with an absolute commitment to something, right? You give all of yourself, you know what, it might come crashing down. There's a risk. So I quasi-agree with the being objective suggestion. Like I said, going into something knowing it might come crashing down, you'd think that you might adjust things. You never know. Some people might say, oh, you're not committed. Oh, you know what? I'm just trying to go into this objective like. I could see that coming at you to bite you, couldn't it? That being said, I know it's a hard ask for sure, but you know what? Maybe something to examine, like they said. There is a warning of hardening your nature, and it's a very real concern as well, I would say. So it's up to you to discern how measured to be. As I would argue, becoming jaded or cynical should be avoided above all else. All right, it changes your energy, right? They just got a hold of it somehow, and they changed it on you. And it wasn't theirs to change, but you know what? It could be argued that you're the one that's allowing it to be changed. That's right. So don't let that happen. All right. I wrote here, that's a prime example of letting such things have power over your energy. All right. And you're said to be Surfeit, or supplied in excess of said energy. So effort instead not to let those who don't want any of it affect that. That's right. But as the reading also warns, you don't necessarily know where to direct said energy. And can get yourself into unhealthy situations which can cause pain. Okay, so there's definite work and definite work and stock you may need to take of yourself if you want to curb and prevent such cycles. All right, you got to reconcile that part of yourself. And I would say if you know that, you go into that, or maybe you don't know that because you haven't heard it like that before, and so you had to hear it like that to kind of recognize that. So now that once you recognize it, and now we can start to do the work. Now we can start to think about how we reconcile or improve or, adjust course from there if you like. So hopefully if this applies, I was able to do that for you. So lean into the example given by your higher evolved counterparts, all right? If this is where you so happen to find yourself. Like I said, the breakdown was pretty narrowly focused on this. It's kind of like a through line through the breakdown. I say direct your energy into work or a purpose. That's right. Try it as an experiment. Find a purpose, right? Although that's easier said than done. But we'll get to that later. Ostensibly, you'll burn off a bit of that passion of yours, if you like. And what energies remain will arguably be just right, or at least tempered a bit, right? It's a little more accessible. And yes, the people you choose to let in are integral too, all right? They also, also realizing they aren't necessarily going to be like you, and understanding that intrinsic difference between the two of you, or the group and you. While it's a little bit sad in a way, you have to adjust yourself or reconcile those things. It's probably going to help you persevere with that particular group or that relationship. So, like I said, a little bit of a narrow focus, but also realize something else here. You aren't alone in all of this. There's other folks out there like you, that's right. And not just random individuals either. This whole Sagittarius period has a little bit of this going with it as a through line. So you're not alone in this particular struggle, if you like. In the event, a little disjointed there as I was trying to read my my writing, but you know what? I think I drilled down on everything and even added a little bit to it. But that's been your breakdown, so let's move on to your numbers and your planets. All right. Those born on the 8th of the month are ruled by the number 8 and by the planet Saturn. All right, and because Saturn carries a strong feeling of responsibility and an accompanying sense of caution and limitation, and Jupiter, the ruler of Sagittarius, represents the opposite tendency toward expansion and optimism, tremendous conflict may be at work in December 8 people. They can find themselves pulled this way and then that, and first from the direction of acting responsibly, with care and commitment, and then in the direction of absolute freedom as well as excess. And those ruled by the number 8 tend to build their lives and careers slowly and carefully. But as mentioned above, this may not be the case for December 8 people. And although they are most often warm-hearted, those ruled by the number 8, well, they can present a cool or detached exterior. All right, what do I have to say about your numbers and planets here? Let's dive back into the notes. All right, the number 8 and the planet Saturn for being pulled this way and being pulled that kind of energy. From the conflict between Saturn's responsibility and sense of caution and Jupiter's expansive broadening of horizons and optimistic energy, which is interesting insofar as Jupiter is often a bolstering force for the primary planet rulership of the day. At least as I've read things here in the past. It's not always positive stuff here, folks, as one might assume. But, not here apparently, as it turns out. But it's totally speaks to the catch-22 kinds of situations outlined in the breakdown, I would argue. This conflict between these two planets. You do too much of this, which is your nature, ostensibly, and that won't work. But then you go the other way and you do that, which now, well, you're not being yourself, right? And this doesn't work for you entirely different reason, because now you can't do this. I think you get the idea. It's quite the quandary I wrote here. But maybe knowing where this dissonance may in fact be coming from, it'll provide you some semblance of solace. I doubt it, but you know what? At least it's something to consider. Probably not, but maybe is what I wrote here. But Saturn is also said in other sources I've dove into, however you say it, that I've gotten into there, to bring challenges one must overcome with patience and discipline. Okay, so perhaps that's an apt suggestion here specifically with regard to the planetary rulerships. All right, and the dynamic that exists there. You just got to approach it as a challenge and overcome it with patience and discipline. All right, there's that struggle. All right, we got the time to put in the energy to be patient and disciplined. And instead, you have that Surfeit energy. That's right. Let it happen. Show you got the wherewithal, I would say. Let's see if that word comes up, perhaps. See if you got that within you. That being said, that's been your numbers and your planets. Let's move on to your tarot. That's right, the old tarot cards there. One of the more eclectic of the New Age metaphysical ideologies. But hey, it's here in the book. We don't necessarily have to take it home with us to start dealing them cards out to, predict our future or whatever. So let's just hear what it has to say. We can leave it in the book. A lot of times it actually informs a little bit of the breakdown or other things as they go on. So it's kind of interesting to hear. So let's see what we got here. The 8th card of the major arcana is Strength or Courage, which depicts a graceful queen taming a furious lion. And the queen symbolizes the female magician who can muster rebellious energies and stands for moral as well as physical strength. The card's positive attributes include charisma and a determination to succeed, whereas the negative qualities include complacency and the misuse of power. Oh, all right. This one was a total copy-paste job for you here. I didn't really personalize it at all. But you know what? That's what happens sometimes, especially if they personalize the numbers and planets a bit, which they did for you. So sometimes that's the trade-off, it would seem. But what do I have to say here? See if I can pick up a little bit of the slack and add something of value to it for you. Strength or courage, the female magician mastering rebellious natures and standing for moral and physical strength. All right, we heard all that, right? Which I would definitely say speaks to a fair aspect of what your day and your breakdown at least may concern. Mastering your desire to chase after what only results in pain, or may just result in pain, right? But there's positives of the card. They include charisma and determination to succeed, which when coupled with your Surfeit energy, it sounds like a winning combination that also plays into Jupiter's come out on top energy. Don't know if I mentioned that one, but that's something that Jupiter imparts. Come out on top kind of energy. Just be mindful of complacency or hanging out in the doldrums, I would say. That's right. You get complacent and we start to lose that energy, right? Inertia, too. They usually mention inertia. You got to have the force that keeps you going, because if you don't, you start to lose your energy. That's right. What else do I have to say here? And also avoid the misuse of power. And here I wrote, ostensibly letting that cynicism or that jaded feeling get the better of you. And then what happens? Well, you direct it at other people. Misuse that power of yours. That's right. Ostensibly. I'm not quite sure. That's what I got from it. That being said, I don't know. A little bit of an apt card to a certain extent. Challenges, rebelliousness, you got to fight all of it. And they use determination. I said wherewithal. Let's see if we got some wherewithal. They got your determination? Pretty close, I would say. Maybe not a direct synonym, but hey, here nor there. That's been your tarot. Let's move on to your health. All right. December 8 people must beware of all sorts of physical and psychological addictions, which can work to the detriment of their health. Addiction is characterized by a physiological need, ever-increasing dosages for effect, and withdrawal symptoms upon removal of the substance, it says here in parentheticals, which is a first. They haven't really explained addiction here before, not in the health, to be sure either. Possibly because of this release of endomorphins in the brain, many of us can become addicted to a wide variety of substances, experiences, and even people, it says. That's right. The danger is simply greater for December 8 people than most. Did I read that right? For December 8 people. Let's see here. Therefore, they must cultivate moderation, thoughtfulness, awareness, and the capacity to view their experiences more dispassionately. Interesting. Boy, what do I have to say about your health here? This was a non-characteristic and personalized health entry, to be sure. But maybe I'm getting ahead of myself here. All kinds of physical and psychological addictions here. That's a rare, but not necessarily new thing for them to say in the health entry there. And the addiction to people is right where my mind went as I started reading this the first time. Reading the physiological components, cultivate moderation, self-awareness, and that objective eye that they mentioned earlier. Consider what you'd think of someone else who's acting the way you are, and how then you might respond to that person. Now put yourself back in your own shoes, like, oh, I'm acting a fool. You gotta have that objective eye. That's right. I've used that myself to adjust my behavior before, and it worked pretty well. It's like, man, if I saw what I'm doing in that person, what advice would I give them? And I'm like, man, you're just all out of sorts. You need to adjust course. And sometimes it's a powerful motivator. What else do I have here? No mention of diet or exercise to be had at all. Usually that's a tried and true, what do you call it? I don't know, just a tried and true thing that they drill down on in these health entries. But they will ditch the diet, definitely, if it comes down to psychological warfare. Welfare. I said that the other day, warfare. Maybe there's a little bit of that in there too, all right? Yeah, they'll ditch the diet for that in a heartbeat. And they did that here. They also got rid of exercise. You know what? It's interesting they did that because a lot of times they'll drill down on exercise being a good outlet for you to get rid of some surplus energy. And that would seem just to come naturally to this particular day if you're Surfeit of that, if I'm pronouncing that word right. Maybe saying it wrong from the beginning. But yeah, again, like I said, this was a highly unique, uncharacteristic health day because they didn't mention any of those things. So diet and health-wise, you know what? You just got to be moderate about it, all right? Use your best judgment. That said, legs and veins are a Sagittarius body area, so be careful of your legs and veins, however you do that. But you know what? I had to add something else to the health entry because they just drilled down on the one aspect of it too much. But I did like how they mentioned addiction to people. You probably saw the smile on my face because it just, I don't know. I thought it's definitely something I thought of going into it. So in any event, that's been your health. Let's dive in with some advice. Oh, as if we haven't been giving that out already. All right. You can succeed in taming yourself without losing your spirit. So don't be afraid of acting responsibly, all right? And then it says in parentheticals here, the rewards are great, all right? And allow yourself the best chance for happiness. Oh, I like that. This was a good one. Sparse, the advice generally is, but you know what? A lot of value, I would say. So what I have to say about it, well, I had to write it in the book here. So let's get in. So yeah. Bear with me. I had to write it tiny there. All right. So it might be disjointed more than usual. All right. Tame yourself without losing your spirit. All right. Huge advice, I would say. Pretty sure between me and the reading, this was drilled down on several times in some form or fashion. But here's what I had to say here. A broken horse can still giddy up and go. That's right. Tame the spirit, can still get out there and be wild to some extent. Provided that horse isn't hobbled. That's right. You can't run if your legs are tied, okay? So don't break your spirit, all right? Just tame it a little bit. That's right. Throw a saddle on it if you like. All right, what else do I have to say here? Act responsibly, okay? Rash actions and excitement are fun, you know, diving into things headlong if you like, you know, racing horse kind of way here. But you know how that will move more than likely turn out, okay, and how it'll affect you in the end if you've been through those things in the past there. So embrace what you've already learned, okay? You know, there's going to be all the excitement and fuel and fire, but you said, you know what? You know what pain comes from that inevitably. So be measured. All right. Allow your best chance for happiness. Oh, that dovetails nicely with the last one there for a mortise and tenon kind of analogy, all right? That's woodworking and joinery for those of you that I probably got wrong with the metaphor there. You can be happy without the nonsense. That's what I wrote here, all right? Even though I didn't emphasize nonsense, all right? Find the excitement elsewhere, okay? It can be found, I'm sure of it, okay? I'm assuming. That's right. That's what I wrote. I'm assuming it can be found, all right? Just don't let your spirit get broke, all right? Stay happy. That was in there too. How about that? In any event, that's been your advice. Hopefully I injected a little bit of levity into it there for you. Well, just enough. Got to be measured with those kinds of things because I still want you to take it seriously. I'm taking it seriously, all right? But that's been your advice. So let's move on to your meditation. All right, let's take the energy down just a little bit. That's Surfeit energy. Let's bring it down. The soul must be freed, whatever the cost. Oh, all right. I'm not quite sure why they chose that one for you, but hey, that's not for me to decide. Once more, the soul must be freed, whatever the cost. All right. That's been your meditation. It's your birthday. I'm not going to throw some spin on it or interpretation for you. And I said spin, not spit. I always think it sounds like spit. Your birthday, your meditation. That being said, the meditation in the can, as it were, let's move on to your strengths and weaknesses. Oh, that's right. Let's see what you got, both on the positive and the negative side, where you come together there. I still got to find out a better way of saying your strengths and your weaknesses. All right. Your strengths, well, you're interesting, you're friendly, and we knew this one. You're energetic. That's right. But your weaknesses, let's hold up that objective mirror, but then spin it around to the side that blows up your face and shows off all the pock marks from when you was picking your chicken pox scabs as a little child there, even though your mom told you not to do it. But you had so much energy and it just felt so, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Let's find out your weaknesses. All right. You're troubled, you're indecisive, and you're inconsistent. Ooh, troubled has reared its ugly head again. Troubled comes up quite a bit, not just this period, but last period too. The Scorpios, it was just like bam, bam, troubled, just stacking them up. And it keeps, I'd say it's the most prevalent weak. I was going to say trouble. It's the most prevalent weakness just because of Scorpio, all right? And you're getting a little bit of that. Ostensibly because of Saturn and Jupiter not liking each other or whatever the thing is. Hey, you know what? You know what I have to say here? You're friendly, energetic, and interesting. Those are huge strengths. And I'm saying if you bring those together for a nice kind of synthesis there, a nice friendly synthesis, your weaknesses don't stand a chance. But that being said, you know what? Don't forget about your weaknesses, because I would argue they can be strengths in their own regard. All right? It's just if you want to knock them down a little bit, sally your strengths to do so. That's right. So once again, your strengths, you're interesting, you're friendly, and you're energetic. And your weaknesses, you're troubled, indecisive, and inconsistent. All right, we can bring that together, I would argue, pretty easily, especially with just your Surfeit energy, or however it's pronounced. That being said, I think you get the point. Those are your strengths and your weaknesses. Let's dive in with those born on this day. And when we get into those born on this day, not only do we get to see who shares your company, but something that I like to segue into that I mentioned earlier is figuring out our passions. That's right. A purpose for you, if you forgot where I mentioned it. Figuring out a purpose so that you can direct your energies elsewhere, away from the things that just cause you the pain inevitably sometimes. Because I think it's important that, hey, we don't only find something we like to do in this life, but that we get fulfillment from. Because too often I get out in the world and I meet folks, ask them what they do, and more importantly, if they like it, and a lot of times they don't. You know why? Because I don't know. I think it's justifiable why. Because people get out of school right into a job, that first one that came along that they could get into to keep money coming in, and maybe they just never got out of it. But the root of the problem being, it wasn't something they ever liked doing, and they just got sucked into climbing that corporate ladder because they got used to doing it, got used to the commute, all of that stuff. You know what? And it's hard to break habits, all right? Because you got tamed too hard. That saddle's just feeling just right? But they've hobbled you, so to speak. Okay, so I think this is the perfect opportunity to not only see who shares your company, but maybe take some inspiration from what they did to get in the book. That's right. What made them famous? Maybe it wasn't their passions. Maybe it was their corporate 9-to-5 that got them famous. But you know what? I think the idea, the premise still stands. Maybe we can take some inspiration from what they did. All right? Stir up the fires of our own passions. If not because of what they did, but because I'm putting the bug in your ear about it. That's right. So let's dive into it. Those born on this day. We start off with Sammy Davis Jr., the entertainer, singer, dancer, comedian, and film actor. He had a great smile too, didn't he, if you know. And we got Jim Morrison, the Lizard King. That's right. Singer, songwriter, poet of The Doors, and died of a drug overdose. All right? Be mindful of those addictions, all right? And a few, probably months back, I think it came across Van Morrison, and I called him the Lizard King, even though I knew it was wrong. But I couldn't think of Jim. It was evading me. So we get to rectify that today. On your birthday, Jim Morrison, the Lizard King. All right, moving on. Mary, Queen of Scots, forced to abdicate the Scottish throne in favor of son James VI, and later James I of England. imprisoned for 16 years and faced execution bravely. All right. Diego Rivera, Mexican painter, a muralist, a communist, and a revolutionary. There's the rebelliousness from the tarot card there. We also have Sinead O'Connor, the Irish singer and songwriter, another rebellious woman there. Jorge Melanius, I'm probably saying that wrong. We have French film director of the earliest cinematic spectacles, father of special effects, and the trip to the moon was the thing he's probably most famous for, if you've seen that particular black and white silent film. Also a producer of over 500 short films. All right. Surfeit energy, to be sure. We also have Jean Sibelius, the Finnish 20th century symphonic composer. And I said the 20th century. He might just be a symphonic composer. James Galloway, an Irish flutist. We also have Jimmy Smith, a jazz organist. Maximilian Scheel, a German stage, film, and TV actor. James Thurber, a humorist, cartoonist, writer of The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. We also have Bjørnstjerne Bjørnson, a Norwegian Nobel Prize-winning novelist, poet, and a playwright. We have Thomas R. Cech, or C-E-C-H, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce that, Sesh, perhaps, a U.S. Nobel Prize-winning chemist. The RNA enzyme activity is what they're probably won that prize for. We have David Carradine, the stage, film, TV actor of Kung Fu fame. We have Kim Basinger, film actress. Eli Whitney, the cotton gin inventor. We also have Jerry Iceman Butler, who was a singer-songwriter for The Impressions. And we also have Richard Fleischer, film director of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea and Soylent Green. There we go. We also have Flip Wilson, the TV comedian and the actor, and Adele Simpson, the fashion designer, or a fashion designer if you like. Though she could be I don't know. In any event, that's been those born on this day. Let me tell you, this day was chocked full of people who I actually recognize. A lot of times that's not the case. Surprising there. So you're in good company there once again. All right. It's just just know there's other folks who probably had their problems too. If and you have any, who knows? Maybe you're one of those highly evolved individuals they mentioned at the top who just started off strong from the beginning and knew where to direct their energy toward a purpose. That's right, toward a purpose, so that your Surfeit energy isn't all on one thing. That's right. Find you a passion. So like I said, that's the hope, that's the aim. Find you a passion if you haven't already, because like they said in the book, it's going to do you a mountain of favors. That's right. So, it dovetailed very nicely for another joinery metaphor there for you specifically. So like I said, if I can hope for anything for you on your birthday, it's that you find a passion. And so hopefully I help stir up the fires to do as much. That is, if it was something you didn't have already. And if that's the case, hey, hopefully you just enjoyed hearing what lottery you drew. That's right. So that being said, that's been those born on this day, which essentially rounds out your birthday read. Except to say, your season is fall, your sign once again is Sagittarius, which as it turns out is the least populated zodiac sign. So you know what? You may be in good company with other folks, but it's a very small good company. So you know what? You may take a little bit of pride in that, I would say. That's right. So there you go. That's an interesting little tidbit there. And the Sagittarius II is your period specifically. And your quality and elements is mutable fire. And what does that mean exactly? Well, that's a whole different video altogether, and I'll leave it at the end if you're interested. But that being said, this has been September 8th, the day of abandon. And I think we worked in the wild horse pretty well there, which isn't always often the case. We can't work in the visual representation limits sometimes. That being said, this has been The Secret Language of Birthdays by Gary Goldschneider and you Stelfers. I have an affiliate link for this book down in the description. If you found it interesting, let me tell you something. It's even more captivating on your coffee table. That's right. Bring some company in. Those people who you're trying to overpower with your energy. That's right. You're going to get the party started for better or for worse. Because you know what? It's going to get the conversation flowing. That's right. It's a great icebreaker. So give it some consideration if you enjoyed yourself. That being said, not altogether all too important. What is important, though, like I said at the top, wishing you a happy birthday. That's right. So happy birthday once again. And for everybody else who joined us, well, I hope you enjoyed yourself and you join us for your birthday read. But lest I forget, your daily numbers. That's right. Get out there. As if we hadn't talked about enough, loaded you up with enough, get out there and let the universe show you it's with you on your path, and drum up some coincidences, all right? See, taste, touch, feel, a little bit of that magic, and you'll see why I suggested it in the first place. Just want you to have some fun on your birthday, all right? And at the very least, you'll get in a little bit of that exercise that they didn't recommend you have. That's right, they totally avoided it. So once again, your 3 and your 2 for a 5. Get out there, let the universe show you it's with you on your path. That being said, once again, I just want to say, happy birthday, and take care of yourself, all right? Take care.